Tonight, Kuru community in Jos South local government area of Plateau State thrown into mourning as 12 people are killed and 5 others injured in an attack by suspected herdsmen. Protect your neighborhood. Emir of Zaria challenges residents as he raises alarm over rising attacks on Zaria in Kaduna State. Governors under the platform of the PDP demand transparency in operations of the NNPC and other government agencies, ask the President to review suspension of Twitter. And NATO leaders warn of military threats posed by China, says the country's behavior is a systemic challenge. Plus business sports news from Abuja and later international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, oil prices hit highest levels in more than 2 years as vaccination campaigns boost global economic recovery.
On sports news, Scotland's return to the European Championships 23 years later ruined by Czech Republic at Hampden Park.
And from Abuja, the organized labor in Nasarawa State declares indefinite strike from tomorrow over workers' welfare. Governor Sule promises to meet all workers' demands if the state's financial capacity improves.
Residents of Kuru community in Jos South local government area of Plateau State woke up this morning to the news of an attack by gunmen on their community, with 12 of their kinsmen killed and 5 others injured. The attackers invaded the community, shooting sporadically before invading some houses where occupants were shot at. Early responders to the plight of the community, including the lawmaker representing Jos South, Jos East in the House of Representatives, have condemned the violent attack.
Driving into Sabunlai, a community in Jos South local government area, one feels an uneasy calm. Within minutes, the reality hits hard. Crowds gather in numbers over what one may describe as yet another visitation of doom. The attacks by suspected herdsmen on June the 13th has left some 12 people dead and 5 others critically wounded. The site of a relaxation center, dead bodies, and even bullet shells tell a sad tale of destruction.
I was at home yesterday around 9:30. Then I had a call telling me something is happening. Little while, they said there are dead bodies here. Some attackers has come and killed them and ran away, and that they followed somewhere here. People didn't give you a chance to see. They followed here and ran away. We don't know whoever was that.
A member representing Jos South, Jos East Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives is at the community to see things for himself. Honorable Dachung Bagos fights the tears as he calms frayed nerves of residents.
God will not allow this thing to go like this.
Speaking with newsmen, he expressed his worry over the attacks.
Disappointed in the sense that we promise people security and we can no longer provide security to the people. Disappointed in the sense that the people had hope, but the way it looks, we are all hopeless, because we can't continue having the same issue repeated over and over. And all we usually hear is that perpetrators will be brought to book. And today, we have additional 12 people that is being added to the book of the people that are being killed on a daily basis. We talk, they said we are talking, we complain, that we are complaining. Where is the solution? As a representative of the people, what will I now tell my people?
But he's also not satisfied with the government's handling of insecurity either.
Why can't government really look into these issues? Why must we continue this way? That our people will be killed and it will be said unknown gunmen. I no longer know what to say. But what we know is that government, if they cannot protect the people, they should tell the people. Because security cannot be one-sided. If all must have security, everybody must have security. And I believe enough of this is enough. We stand with the people. We stand with the families that have lost their loved ones. But if government cannot defend the people, they should tell the people to defend themselves.
We want to appeal to the people to be calm, and security agencies should do their best in making sure that these people are apprehended. And I think once this is done, confidence will be restored back to the people.
On its part, the Plateau State Police Command confirmed the incident, but with a lesser number of people killed by the attackers. The authorities concerned must now ensure that investigations on the unidentified gunmen are carried out for justice to be served.
Similar condemnation is also trailing yesterday's abduction of a family of 8 in Zaria area of Kaduna State. The Emir there, Ambassador Nuhu Bamali, has asked residents of Zaria to defend themselves against bandits and kidnappers that have been terrorizing innocent citizens of the Emirate and the state in general. He made the comments at a meeting with heads of security agencies in the state, and he's also asking community leaders to undertake the immediate task of forming neighborhood watch in preparation for self-defense against the bandits instead of running away from their homes.
Nowhere is safe. Zaria used to be safe haven. You know, whenever there is crisis outside, if you run into the city wall here, then you are safe. So you can see the situation we're in now. The children cannot go to school in his domain. And even the grown-ups, you are afraid, and they move freely, unchecked, because they have sophisticated weapons that nobody can dare, confront them. So we're in a very difficult situation, and to stay in this perpetual, fear for a long time is not good for us, for all of us. On Friday, I had to speak to, the public, the mosque there, for people to start, taking care of their neighborhood. Otherwise, we'll just continue, relaxing, and before we know it, the strike. That's it. And that was why we're all of the opinion that, we have to embark on neighborhood watch, of which everybody, is now participating across, the city of Zaria.
From Kaduna to another security concern in Delta State, where elder statesman and leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Chief Edwin Clark, is asking the president to regard himself as president of Nigeria and not president of the Fulani people. Chief Clark has criticized President Muhammadu Buhari for not speaking against the atrocities allegedly being perpetrated by herders of Fulani origin who, according to him, are bent on disrupting the peace of Nigeria. He was speaking during a press briefing in Abuja, where he condemned an anonymous statement credited to the Miyetti Allah, in which a group issued a 72-hour ultimatum to the state government to reverse its stance on open grazing.
Who are these people and Miyetti Allah who have the impunity to say they will go to the Delta, Niger Delta, and giving 72 hours notice, and the president and his agents, particularly Joe Garba and others, they kept quiet as if they don't know what is going on. But when IPOC makes statement, they will jump on it. We can no longer continue in a country where some people regard themselves as superior to the others. Mr. President, you realize that in southern Nigeria, particularly the south or the Niger Delta, provide the resources for the survival of this country. And any attempt by anybody to deride us will be resisted. But for him to say that there are grazing routes in Nigeria and no one has right to stop those grazing, and then they are building, people are building, they will destroy those things and allow the grazing. In what country? This country does not belong to Mr. President, anybody alone. It belongs to all of us with equal rights.
But the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria is distancing itself from the statement credited to it, including the purported 72-hour ultimatum issued to the Delta State government to reverse its laws on open grazing. The Secretary General of MACBAN, Usman Baba Ngelzama, told Channels Television that such a statement by faceless individuals is only meant to create mischief.
Such statements that come from faceless, unknown groups should not be given any serious consideration. I believe this statement, I have not seen it, but whether I saw it or did not see it, I believe this statement must be coming from mischief makers, people who are out to tarnish, to continue to tarnish the image of the Fulanis, to continue to tarnish the image of the pastoralists. It is because of such negative profiling by the media that makes us even believe that the anti-open grazing laws being promulgated by, or being intended to be promulgated by the southern states are not laws stopping open grazing, but we believe these laws are laws against Fulanis living in southern parts of the country. The northern governors must be up and doing, and they must also begin to open discussion with their southern counterparts for them to put their heads together and come up with a solution that can work for both the north and the south, respecting the fundamental human rights of the pastoralists as citizens, their right to movement, their right to free trade, their right to liberty, their rights to dignity. They deserve these rights as Nigerians because they are Nigerians as well. So the Constitution is not selective.
In part two, after the break, we have more reactions on the claim of impending attack on Asaba and Agbo, this time from the Delta State government. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Kuru community in Jos South local government area of Plateau State thrown into mourning as 12 people are killed and 5 others injured in an attack by suspected herdsmen. Protect your neighborhood, Emir of Zaria challenges residents as he raises alarm over rising attacks on Zaria in Kaduna State. Governors under the platform of the People's Democratic Party demand transparency in operations of the NNPC and other government agencies, ask the president to review suspension of Twitter. And NATO leaders warn of military threat posed by China, says the country's behavior is a systemic challenge. The Fulani community in Delta has also been reacting to the report of a threat allegedly linked to the Fulani people in Delta State and noting that they are not a party to the threat allegedly issued by the Fulani jihadists. The Senior Special Assistant to Governor Okowa on special duties, Alhaji Mukta Usman, and the Seriki Fulani in the state, Alhaji Musa Mohammed, say the news of the planned attack also came as a shock to them, instilling fear of possible attack from their host communities.
It was a very sad story for the leadership of Fulani in Delta State. We wake up, we now see the media, what is going viral. We are very disappointed, and we are calling to the government and the security agent in the state to know we are not parcel and parcel of that nonsense that is happening. We are Nigerians. We have a good understanding with our host community, and we are calling on the government to make sure they push out those people that are publicating that thing. We are not part of this. We can never be part of it. We are in very understandable with our peace community, and we must have to thank the governor for accepting us any day, anytime. We are accepted in the state more than our host states. So I want to call the people that they must have to be peace-loving people, not to create unnecessary tension. Because when you check out what is happening yesterday and today, all our Fulanis, they were panicking. They were expecting the community can attack them at any time, which they don't know what is happening.
Staying with the farmer herder crisis, the governor of Ebonyi State, Mr. David Umahi, has restated the position of his people that they would not be giving lands for ranching in the state. The governor was responding to questions on the continued killings of innocent Nigerians by killer herders and solutions to the insecurity in the southeast region. The governor also gave his views on achieving the best possible kind of restructuring in Nigeria in view of the numerous challenges confronting the nation. Governor Umahi was a guest earlier this evening on our politics program, Politics Today.
Look, this is not about governors, it's about the people. So whatever position the people, take in this regard, that's what will happen. So there is no land that is not owned by, individuals, or corporate, bodies. So this is beyond governors, and that is the truth. So when people call governors, they're making a very grievous mistake. Even if I say, okay, as governor of Southeast, I want, the people from this village, I want you to, allow me to donate this land. The question is, will they allow it?
Have you consulted with them? Do they want you to give land for ranching?
They have said no. They have no land for ranching. I will recommend administrative restructuring, which is it, making the subnational government, to strengthening it, devolving powers and responsibilities to subnational government, abolishing the local government. But when it comes to economic restructuring, a chain is as strong as the weakest link. Every region must be given the opportunity. In fact, every state, because I believe more in states than in region, because I was marginalized, as a state, when we were more into regions. So I wouldn't want that to happen. So I talk more about states, equality of states, opportunities to states,
Two other stories. The Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, and the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, PASSAN, will resume work tomorrow after 2 months of strike. And some of the issues that led to the strike will top the agenda of the meeting by the Nigeria Governors Forum Wednesday, June 16th. A statement from the forum says efforts are already underway in all states of the Federation to either constitute the states' accounts allocation committees or to inaugurate them preparatory to the granting of full autonomy to the judiciary and legislature. JUSUN and PASSAN recently called off their 2-month nationwide strike following the intervention of the NJC and other stakeholders. The statement adds that the governors will also be updated on activities of the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19, while updates on the state's fiscal transparency, accountability and sustainability for results will also be given. In the meantime, the People's Democratic Party's Governors Forum is asking the federal government to address the deteriorating economic and security situation in the country and the worsening social and political tensions. The governors made the request today in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, after a meeting that had governors of PDP-controlled states in attendance. Part of the decisions reached include the call for the review of Twitter's suspension, devolution of power, among others.
From the north to the southern part of the country, governors elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party arrived at the Akwa Ibom Government House in Uyo, the state capital. Straight away, they head to the banquet hall for the business of the day, a deliberation on the state of the nation, after which journalists are allowed in.
My dear colleagues, gentlemen of the press,
the chairman of the forum reels out a 14-point communique with particular attention to the operational system of the NNPC, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other revenue-generating agencies.
It decried the recent NNPC's decision not to make its statutory contribution to the Federation account, thereby starving the states and local government, and indeed Nigerians, of funds. The meeting observed that the CBN has become such an octopus that it treats its president state governments publicly without decorum about sanctions on any attempt questions its modus operandi.
They're also calling for quick intervention over the rising debt profile of the country while demanding a new revenue-sharing formula.
With over 80% of normal appropriation at the national level spent on debt servicing. All the gains of the PDP government under Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, PCFR, where Nigeria exited its foreign debt obligations, has been destroyed. The forum reiterated its call, which seemed to have fallen on deaf ears, for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission to urgently send the revised revenue allocation formula to Mr. President for transmission to the National Assembly for enactment.
The raging controversy over the ban on Twitter operations and security concerns are not left out.
And a lot of Nigerians rely on Twitter for their livelihood, businesses and self-employment. This will further worsen Nigeria's 33% unemployment rate, which is the highest in the world. The meeting called for more involvement of states in mining and geophysical activities within their states. This is necessary not just to curtail harm to the environment, but to further diversify the Nigerian economy and complement oil as a foreign exchange earner for Nigeria. It lamented the fact that Mr. President seemed not to be aware that the coercive instrument of state security is firmly within his hands and not governors.
While they schedule their next meeting to hold in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, the PDP governors are hopeful that the decisions made here will help reshape the policies of government in the interest of all Nigerians.
More reactions continue to trail the suspension of the microblogging site Twitter in Nigeria. The latest is coming from the Joint Civil Society Organization, CSOs, and they are seeking the reversal of the ban and withdrawal of threats to prosecute anyone using Twitter in the country. They also condemn the directive issued by the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, NBC, for all broadcast stations to deactivate their Twitter account. A statement by Amnesty International and 70 other CSOs reads in part, "We are concerned about an alarming backsliding on human rights across Nigeria as the federal government and state authorities continue to use the criminal justice system and repression to silence peaceful dissent while failing to ensure accountability for violation of rights." Amnesty International and other CSOs are also urging the UN and the African Union to publicly condemn the suspension of Twitter in Nigeria and put pressure on the Nigerian authorities to reverse the decision. When the news at 10 returns, the organised labour in Nasarawa State declares indefinite strike beginning from tomorrow, and oil prices hit highest levels in more than 2 years as vaccination campaigns boost global economic recovery. That's on Business News. Do join us again. And we have more stories from Abuja studios. Here's Gloria Umezoke with more. Take it away, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. Good to see you. The organized labor in Nasarawa State has declared an indefinite strike effective from Tuesday, June the 15th. The state chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Mr. Yusufiya, made the declaration today at the Labour House in Lafia. He says the decision to embark on the indefinite strike was reached after a meeting of the State Executive Council held today.
The meeting calls on the state government to demonstrate genuine commitments to the issue of promotions by ensuring its implementation, considering the long period it has taken and the continuous assurance by the present administration that she is going to implement this promotion without actualizing it. Workers of the state have been stagnated for over a decade in the state, hence the need for the government to consider the urgent need for the implementation of promotions at hand. As for the promotions yet to be issued from 2018, the meeting calls on the government to process and issue to deserving workers immediately. The meeting calls on the government to direct the Committee on Minimum Wage and Consequential Adjustment to resume back to discussion table so as to ensure that all issues surrounding minimum wage and other consequential adjustment are considered for implementation, even though the benefit of the minimum wage has been eroded. It is in the line of the above that the meeting hereby directs all public servants in the state, including private sector workers who are affiliates to Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, to proceed on an indefinite strike action as from tomorrow, Tuesday, 15th June 2021, until when our demands, as mentioned above, are met.
Labour unions are demanding implementation of promotions which they say have lingered for over a decade. They are also demanding implementation of annual increments and training, among others. Meanwhile, the governor is assuring that all legitimate demands will be met if the state financial capacity improves.
If the condition of the state financially improves, we'll be more than happy to look at even we have looked at the bigger ones. So this one is not a problem, we'll look at it. But to push me to an angle to agree on paying something, whether we have the money or not, is the one that I think is not fair, is not the right way to go. But as long as it's something that we have the money and we look at it and it's legitimate and it's the right thing to do, believe me, without even being pushed, without even being asked, we'll address it and we'll pay that.
As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark the 2021 World Blood Donor Day, the Nigeria Medical Association is advocating the need for adequate legislation that will guide blood transfusion medicine in the country. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, President of the NMA, Professor Innocent Uja, notes that the lack of proper regulation make crockery in transfusion medicine to thrive in Nigeria, thereby increasing the risk of transmissible infections among blood recipients. The NMA also appeals to the government to fund the National Blood Service Commission, as Nigeria is far below the World Health Organization's recommended 2 million units annually. Mr. Kola Abiola, the son of the acclaimed winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Chief Moshood Abiola, has launched an application named Tribe Naija to connect young people and drive conversations for the improvement of the country. Mr. Abiola says the app does not in any way suggest that he has any intention to run for political office, but it became necessary to drive like-minded conversations and create a platform for youths to better prepare for the future.
I want you to talk how... As Nigeria celebrates Democracy Day, some young persons have gathered to hold conversations on the state of affairs of the country. This thing called Democracy Day is the theme of the day, and who better to lead this conversation than the man Kola Abiola, whose father is seen as a symbol of democracy, and in whose honor June 12 was renamed Democracy Day. He speaks on the launch of a new app, Tribe Naija.
This platform is supposed to give us time to air out the views. That's why you don't have photos, you don't have charts. The only charts you're going to be able to have on this platform is charts to do with the issues in Nigeria. The issues in Nigeria. And let us be the ones to come up with solutions ourselves.
The conversation on the state of Nigeria's current democracy continues with a group of young panelists.
Executive is not just the only office people contest for. And in a democracy, if we do not have a functional, independent legislative arm of government, we will not have democracy because they cannot checkmate the executive.
When we understand as a people that we actually have power, power is not real. You cannot see it, you can only feel it. But if we must understand that we are power, numbers. Politics is numbers.
The whole thing is, if you're running for office in Nigeria, I'm begging you, whether you're young or you're old or whatever, the main thing is, do you care about the Nigerian people? Are you going there to work for the Nigerian people?
Even as the streets are littered with youths protesting for and against the government of the day, these young panelists speak on the involvement of youths in the electioneering process.
It's one thing to be angry and spark on social media and all of that. But even on elections day, we're not coming out to organize and to change the narrative, to change the outcome of the elections, then we're not using our power.
For Mr. Kola Abiola, this move has no political undertone.
So it's not about politics. And I know many of you probably came here thinking I'm going to make an announcement for presidency. I see the rubbish going around, the posters with me at APC. I'm not even a card-carrying member of any party.
The Tribe Naija app is a community where like-minded people rub minds on burning topics of interest.
That's it from the nation's capital. It's back to Millicent in Lagos for more on the news at 10.
Many thanks, Gloria. Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State has been speaking on some of the actions of his government to improve the welfare of residents of the state and the development strides of his government. He asked regional groups like Ohanese Ndigbo, Afenifere and others to leverage on the nation's diversity to its strength and promote unity. He was speaking during a media chat to commemorate Democracy Day.
Ohanese Indigo, they made a resolution that they are not behind Biafra project. They are behind the unity of Nigeria. That is very encouraging. And we are hearing it from an important regional association. Also, the Arewa Consultative Forum, of course, is behind One Nigeria. They have not been advocating for the fragmentation of Nigeria. Afinifere, also they made a resolution that they are behind One Nigeria. They are not behind those who are calling for the split of the country. The same thing with the National Coalition of the Middle Belt people. They too, they say they believe in One Nigeria. So who else will succeed in splitting the country? In fact, I made a call on these regional associations. Since they all believe in One Nigeria, let them come together and fashion out our diversity, identify our differences, identify our similarities, and ensure that our diversity, which is a source of problem, is a challenge. They should convert that challenge to an opportunity, and it's possible. So these regional bodies should meet and find out how they can convert our differences into opportunities for the unity of this country.
And global economy gets a boost. Here's Teniola Shaboale with more on business news.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, that's right, Millicent. Oil prices are starting the week on the highest levels in more than 2 years, supported by an improved outlook for fuel demand as increased COVID-19 vaccinations help lift travel restrictions. Brent crude went up by 0.52% to $73 after rising by 1.1% last week, while US WTI crude climbed by 0.28% to $71.12 per barrel. Last week, Goldman Sachs said it expects Brent to rise to $80 per barrel from mid-July as the rollout of inoculations boost economic activity around the world. Meanwhile, back here in Nigeria, the Naira rose by 0.12% week-on-week to 410 Naira 25 kobo against the dollar at the NAFEX as at June the 11th, 2021. According to latest data issued by the FMDQ exchange, the local currency fell by 0.77% against the US dollar at the Bureau de Change market to 498 Naira 80 kobo. Total value of transaction carried out last week at the I&E window dropped by 20.55% to $537.74 million, in contrast to $676.80 million traded in the previous week. Similarly, total turnover of forex transactions carried out last week at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets dropped by 35.62% week on week to $688.72 million. While the local equities market in Nigeria is closed for the Democracy Day holiday, but in the U.S., stocks hit a record closing high as investors await feedback from the Federal Reserve's meeting this week. Well, here are some of Monday's closing numbers for other global markets. And that's Business News Tonight. I'm Teniola Shaboale. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10. NATO leaders warn of military threats posed by China, says the country's behavior is a systemic challenge. Plus, other international news from our studio in London. Please stay with us. NATO leaders are meeting in Brussels. They've warned of what they call the military threat posed by China as systemic challenge, extending discussions about China's activities during the G7 summits that held over the weekend. Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. China has accused the G7 of political manipulation after it criticised Beijing over a range of issues. At the end of a 3-day summit, leaders of the G7 countries urged China to respect human rights and fundamental freedoms. Issues highlighted included abuses against the Uyghur Muslim minority group and the crackdown on Hong Kong pro-democracy activists.
I think we're in a contest, not with China per se, but a contest with autocrats.
US President Joe Biden said he was satisfied with the statement's language on China. Beijing accused the G7 of baseless accusations and said to stop slandering China. Meanwhile, as the NATO leaders' summit begins, the head of the Transatlantic Security Alliance has urged members to confront the challenges of China's rise. Leaders posed for a socially distanced photo at the start of the talks.
China is coming closer to us.
Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said that NATO leaders are expected to brand China a security risk at the summit.
We have new challenges.
US President Joe Biden wants to create international blocs of democratic nations to act as a counterweight to China's authoritarian system and its fast-growing economic and military might.
I think that China is, as I've said many times, a gigantic fact in our lives.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said NATO did not want a new Cold War with China, but admitted Beijing posed challenges for the alliance. Israel's new Prime Minister has promised to unite the nation after years of political stalemate. Right-wing nationalist Naftali Bennett will lead an unprecedented coalition of parties that won a confidence vote by a razor-thin margin of just 1 seat on Sunday. He succeeds Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving Prime Minister, who was forced out of office after 12 years. Hundreds of Israelis celebrated in the streets with the end of Mr. Netanyahu's mandate. The trial of ousted Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi has got underway 4 months after a military coup removed the elected government from office. The popular politician will face trial in a court on 5 charges, including the illegal possession of walkie-talkies and breaking coronavirus restrictions while campaigning for elections. Military officials have also accused her of corruption and violating the Colonial-era Office Secrets Act. She is facing prison sentences that could put her in jail for the rest of her life. Police in Nicaragua have detained 5 more prominent opposition figures in what critics say is a crackdown on opponents of the country's presidency. Several former allies of longtime President Daniel Ortega were among those arrested. In power since 2007, Mr. Ortega has been accused of suppressing dissent and political opposition to his government ahead of the poll. An American father and son have admitted helping the ex-Nissan chief escape from Japan in 2019. A former US Special Forces veteran and his son were extradited from the US over claims they smuggled Carlos Ghosn out of Japan in a luggage box on a private jet as he awaited trial. They face up to 3 years in prison. The former Nissan boss is an international fugitive living in Lebanon, which has no extradition treaty with Japan. Algeria's Ministry of Communications has said that the accreditation of the TV news channel France 24 has been cancelled. A government spokesman said that the international news channel had shown clear and repeated hostility towards Algeria and its institutions. The move comes a day after parliamentary elections were held in Algeria. The turnout for the election was registered at around 30%, the lowest for 2 decades. Marine biologists are investigating a mystery skin disease afflicting white-tip reef sharks in Malaysia. Some early reports suggest that rising sea temperatures could be to blame. Researchers found that the sea surface temperature at Sipadan Island had risen to 29.5 degrees Celsius in May, a degree higher than that in 1985. The sharks are typically found resting around reefs in the day and are a popular attraction for divers. And finally, the return of the Cliff Diving World Series has made a big splash in France. After a 21-month layoff, the opener for the series' 12th season took place near the town of Saint Raphael on the French Riviera and saw 12 men and 12 women compete from platforms as high as 27 metres. The public admired and cheered the daredevils from canoes and boats as they made acrobatic jumps from the cliff into the sea. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Reigning UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman says his homecoming for the first time in over 26 years is not just for the fun, but rather an opportunity for him to tell his story back home to inspire the youth. He told Channels Television that he wants to create an enabling environment back home for the youth who want to pursue their dreams in the sport. Scotland's long-awaited return to major international tournament was ruined by Patrick Schick's double as the Czech Republic beat Scotland 2-0 at Hampden Park in their Group D opener at Euro 2020. Schick headed the Czechs in front before the break and then doubled the lead on 52 minutes with an incredible strike from just inside the Scotland half. And that's a wrap on sports news.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. Kuru community in Jos South local government area of Plateau State was thrown into mourning today as 12 people were killed and 5 others injured in an attack by a suspected herdsman. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Morgan. Have a good night. Stay safe.